All right. Well, this go around, we're going to finish the study that we had started. And I wanted to start with this part first. It says, faith makes all things possible. I get these little books and I do my studies in them. I'm on my third one now. But before we get into this, I want to give warning. When you find out information, you find out truth. Because, as we're told, everything we've been taught is a lie. Well, the world's gone on for so long. Who's God's enemy? Think about that. And then the second thing is, remember what Jesus said to do. Dust your feet and walk away. Don't be a part of it. Don't do something stupid that will take your reward away of what God has for you. And set the example. Dust your feet and walk away. Because this can be a little bit shocking. It's funny how we're talking about birth, how this comes about. All right. So, speaking and continuing on about birth, it is to build off of learned material that we had. So an egg is what the woman has. If it comes from the ovary. I broke down the word the word ovary. Well, O in English is a double O. In Egyptian hieroglyphs, it looks like an I. Phoenician is an O. West Greek, hello, and it's an O with a value of 70. And it said something about the order of it's the order of arrangement, order, and it kind of gives a little bit of a history that a few chosen words need to be carefully looked at. Well, and the word here, it is order, tidiness, neatness, cleanliness, arrangement, regulation, order, aka Mega Omega, which is the Omega sign. God's Alpha and Omega. Well, there's a copycat in the world, we all know. That's why we have to rightly divide the word of truth, and we have to unlearn what we've learned. And don't be afraid of words. I know if he watches this, he'll know who I'm talking about. Used in chemistry, physics, electricity, statistical mechanics, math, computers. With math, it's geometry and biology. This one's a little messy. I was in a hurry. W is the lowercase of Omega, and it means they refer to it as a minuscule letter. Well, look at this minuscule letter. And something I found that correlated was the 7 lampstands. It's a little out of order. I apologize. In Strong's 7650, Sabah, or Shabah, is to be complete, to seven oneself, swear, adjourn, charge by an oath, take an oath, straightway. It's to bind oneself by 7 things most sacred, confirmed by 7 sacrifices, 7 witnesses, and 7 plagues. So in Va of ovary, it's a volt ampere. The volts, like with electricity, 12-volt battery for your car. It's a unit of electrical power. Spark of life, maybe? Well, the RY in ovary denotes occupation, business, calling, condition, place, or establishment. And let me tell you, stop being in the flesh. This isn't about the flesh. flesh. It's about your spirit. God can heal the flesh. What do you think Jesus came to do, guys? Don't get mad over that. Go to God. Talk to God. Render unto Caesar what Caesar's, and what is God is God's. And when you find out who Judas is, how you've been betrayed, then walk away. Dust your feet. Don't do anything stupid. Please heed the warning. All right. In Strong's 1000, it's Beitzah, an egg to swell out or bulge. Well, before the babies had crowns, guess what happens? Yep, the head bulges. And just as before crowning occurs, there's a bulging out, and then the ring of fire, which is a burning sensation, is the best way I can describe it. When the baby's head is at the 10 centimeter mark, almost like a full moon. And that's when the head of the baby, the leader, comes out. Metaphor for something fragile or in need of care, like an egg or a baby. Because baby starts as an egg and then is born. And we call those neonates when they're less than 30 days old. So in Strong's Continued, from the last page, eggs is a staple food valued for their nutrition and ease of preparation. Isn't that ironic? Symbolically, new life and potential. It's the same as boots. It's B-U-W-T-S, pronounced boots. It's an egg from its whiteness, the white part of the egg. And that's in Strong's 948. It's fine linen, cotton to bleach or be white, referring to the fine linen describing the clothing of the saints. Refers to fine linen, a high quality, white fabric associated with purity, wealth, and nobility. Garments worn by priest, royalty, and wealthy. And this is where I've noted, just like Mordecai, the little man is what his name means, or servant or Marduk, was known for the saving the Jews in Esther's time, celebrated at Purim, and that's in Esther 8:15. So let's go the other side and flip the tables to the underworld. But in Isaiah 59:5, and this is the verse and the breakdown of the words. They hatch, which means split, divide, cleave, rip up, benet, or to burst open. And the eggs is, of course, the swell and bulge of vipers to extrude, thrust, or force it. And to weave is like weaving. In God's word, it talks about knitted in your mother's womb. Well, this is a different type of weaving. Spiders is to entangle, fleeting nature of life, and human efforts without divine intervention. W/O, it means without in abbreviations. Web is to dig, to bore, to pierce, to trench, to dig, meaning excavate, or make a hole. So, I was always taught growing up, the famous old saying, and I know a lot of people are going to know it. Oh, the webs we weave when we first seek to deceive. Dust your feet and walk away. Please. Don't let anybody steal your crown of life that God gives every one of us. You don't believe me? You were born. Don't you have a crown on your head? Come on, y'all. And then the other part is, whoever eats is to eat, consume, devour, figuratively denotes consumption or destruction. And quite a while back, I think it was last summer, I did a video on the meanings of words and what consumption meant. Their eggs, information, vomit, or filth will die, have on executed, to die, to put to death, to die prematurely. crack one open. Yep, we heard that several years ago, I think now. It was said by a certain person. Thing that is crushed to be estranged, to turn aside, to be a stranger, trodden on, to reject. And a viper to cleave, split, break, open, rip, divide, rend, or burst. Splitting wood, dividing waters, breaking open the earth. Man, oh man, I hope they're using geologists around here. Okay, is hatch to cleave, split, divide, rend, rip open, and break apart. And then I can't turn the other light on because I have chickens in here. I had to bring up a couple, and I don't want them crowing and making noises. Okay, they're cobwebs. Thread, film, dig, excavate, to bore, to pierce, the same thing. Cannot means no, not, do, denial, prohibition. To be, and that means not what prohibition in the days of old. It means to prohibit. To be made into, to be, come to pass, to exist, become. Clothing, garment, of course clothing, raiment, a covering, treachery, pillage, to deceive, to act treacherously. With their works, deed, work, thing done, act, labor, undertaking, enterprise. Their deeds, work, deed, act, activity, to produce, to do, to make, are sinful, is iniquity, trouble, wickedness, sorrow, and idle, strictly nothingness, morally wrongdoing, or moral wrongdoing. Of course, we do deeds, and acts is to do or make, and the way this is speaking of is in violence. And violence is wrong, cruelty, injustice, unjust gain, to be violent, to wrong, lawlessness, and iniquity. That's why I said, dust your feet and walk away when you figure this stuff out. Don't be a part of that. Don't be a part of that. That's the mark, guys, the bad one. It's not the mark of the groaning for the things that are done. Be careful. It will steal your crown of life, and I have to warn you, because if I don't, that blood is on my head by having this understanding. Please heed the warning and follow God to remain, just as Noah, just as Lot. We're there. You can see it. It's written plainly, just like Daniel said. Or in their hands is palm, hand, sole, power, thigh joint, handles is bent. You know, like riding a bike, the old days we had bent handles. Pan, vessel is hollow, hand shaped like branches or fronds, palm trees. Hello, what does that look like? So opposite of egg, or better yet, bad egg. You let a bad egg go bad, let me tell you, they smell like sulfur. So in Strong's, Beldoso, it's abhor, detest, loathe, stink, abominable, abomination, vile, unclean, not blessed by God. So in the word, it was spoken of, with poisoned food and adding flour. Well, I think it's more of a metaphor these days. I don't know. It may work. Who knows? I know you can take activated charcoal too, and it'll absorb bad toxins. Takes care of food poisoning in about 30 minutes if you take it immediately. My mother taught me that. And 2 Kings 4:40 through 44 speaks of that. And that's where he was told, they were screaming there's poison in the soup or whatever. And then he came over and added a little flour and said it was clean. Well, in Strong's 7054, Kemet is flour, meal to grind, offerings, and daily sacrifice. So the key component in grain offerings, which was also known as a meal offering, presented at the tabernacle and temple in Leviticus 2. And the grain offering is gift or sacrifice, and it means to draw near. and tribute to lead and guide, which is the offering. Labor intensive, very done by hand by millstones. And even these little ones, let me tell you, it is tedious and your arms get tired. So in the old days when, they had to flee and didn't have time to rise their bread to make a big fluffy loaf, like making sandwich bread, they had to make flat bread. And it was because they were short on time, they didn't put any leaven in it. And the way I see it is, leaven is what puffs up, makes you boastful, arrogant, proud, disobedient, and pretty much against God, because you're lifting yourself up, not doing it for the glory of God, which is why I don't show my face. I don't hide behind a camera. This is God's story. This is God's glory, not mine. I'm just the messenger. You know how that old saying goes. All right, and Strong's 5560, fine flour is solent, chipped off. You have to chip a little bit of a time. You do not want to break somebody. So the people who are poisoned, you have to do this a little at a time. In God's perfect time. Like I said, when there's a contraction is when you can start planting those seeds and bring them relief and calm them down. Because if you fracture somebody, I'm going to tell you, you're going to stand before God knowing darn well what you've done, and it won't be good. That is why you're held to the higher standard when you speak. And I'm going to tell you, that's absolutely terrifying, because I pray I have never, ever spoke a wrong thing. I don't want to disappoint him. All right, and speaking of birth, we'll talk about trees. Because in Mark 8:24, the blind man, when he first saw, he said he saw men walking upright like trees. And then that's when Jesus took the mud and did it again. And that's when he was able to see. It was kind of blurry, I guess, from the mud. And I have a feeling there's probably good metaphors right there for hidden meanings. And I'm going to tell you, these newer versions, you are not going to find anything of treasure. That King James Bible, written by an English king, was for a reason. There are hidden treasures throughout the word. And if you go on a really small, I need to understand thing, ask God to give you that knowledge. Ask God to lead you. His Spirit leads all of us. That's why when we talk together, we sound the same. When they talk together, they sound the same. But they're having to copy us. They have to follow God. All right, so the brain and the vessels, the arteries and everything, they light up like a tree with dye and can be seen with the technology we have today. And let me tell you, I was in awe. It was crazy how the Father works. And then their lungs also present as a tree, but they're kind of upside down, because your bronchial is the it's been a long day, I'm trying to think, is the main trunk of the tree, and then it branches off, and then it goes into the alveoli. They kind of remind me of the leaves, is what that reminds me of. Well, then we're going to talk about the baby with growing in the womb. And yes, I'm not a very good person for drawing. If I'd stuck with it back in the day, I'd probably been better. This is the baby in a womb, and there's the placenta and the little cord. So in the womb, I've noticed a lot of times the womb on the outside from the belly looks a lot like an egg. But the placenta and cord is called the placenta and cord. When a baby is born, these younger generation, I'm sure it's happened before, there's nothing new, they will refuse the cord to be cut. And that's called a lotus birth, when the young mother refuses the cord to be cut, and they will wrap up the placenta and everything in a bag and carry it around till it naturally falls off. And so, from my understanding, it smells disgusting and hideous. And then in Ezekiel 16:4, it speaks of, and as for thy nativity, on the day you were born, thy navel cord was not cut, nor were you washed in water to cleanse you. You were not rubbed with salt, nor wrapped into swaddling clothes. So the preparation of the new birth that we're going through, they're more or less refusing. And let me tell you, you do not want to remain in a fallen state. And yeah, I sweat too, what I'm fixing to read. Because one of the brothers was concerned and fearful over something. But if you've got God on your side, you have nothing to fear. And this is kind of gives some common sense to things, but I think it can kind of diminish some fears that some people have. But anyway, so I did a little bit of research as far as being God, and it may sound a little broken, but I was just trying to get the words without adding words, because I don't want to add anything. And the verse in Ezekiel, it's, you bring forth to journey, not covenant binding agreement, order of wash hands or feet, to flow inspection, not permanent, and loyalty destroyed, wrapping not for protection. That's what I got out of that, just by breaking down the simple words. So the fruits that are produced brought the lotus flower, and as a basket is rotten fruit and good for nothing. Many tickle harson, and it means, thy days are numbered, you've been found wanting. So when you saw that split and saw that lotus flower, don't be afraid. They're afraid because of disobedience. As long as you take the high road, if you're not anybody who's not taking the high road, and you get revelation from something somebody speaks from God's word, walk away from it. Just don't do it anymore. It says a righteous man falls 7 times and gets back up. It means you just try and strive to do better, to change those ways. And I was taught it takes 3 weeks to make a habit. So you're not going to get it perfect every time. And that's about all I have for this lesson that I've done today. I started it this morning, and I really didn't get to finish it till tonight. But we'll see what else God has for us in store. I'm not sure where He'll lead me next, but I thought there's more to the birthing thing than just what meets the eye, and I had to look into it more. I was being pushed for it. So anyway, you guys have a blessed night.